All right, y'all. I almost had it. I almost had it. So, look, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it may be when you are tuning in to this broadcast. I am your international award winning author, filmmaker, and empowerment specialist, Toneal M. Jackson. And I want to welcome you guys to an all new Get Educated and Empowered with Toneal. Today, we are talking about an attitude of gratitude. Hello, Sharon. And in fact, as you guys are coming in, whether you are listening through Noon Vibe, if you're watching from Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or YouTube, please feel free to say hello. I say it all the time. I am not able to see who is coming in all the time, and I want to definitely respect everybody by being able to speak back to you. So those are three rules of protocol. Number one, say hello so that way I can speak back. Number two, like and share the video. So if you're watching from a visual platform, please like and share the video. And then number three, we are asking that you please tag somebody that you believe will benefit from today's broadcast. And so today, again, we are talking about an attitude of gratitude. First of all, what is it? We hear it all the time. We hear people say, I think I'm going to take my glasses off so that way I don't get this light in my eyes or in the glasses. So, but we hear all the time people talk about an attitude of gratitude. So let's kind of just break down what that means, right? And you guys know. So, in matter of fact, if you don't know, I don't want to assume that you just know. On Wednesdays, it's always Word of Wisdom Wednesday. And so, when we're talking about words of wisdom, it's gonna be like whether it's things that we grew up with, whether it's things that may come from the word of God, but it's gonna always be something that's going to add to your personhood, if you will, right? So it's totally up to you whether or not you want to take away what's given, but it's definitely purpose to encourage you. Hello, Amy. Thanks so much for tuning in. So when we talk about an attitude of gratitude, what does that mean? So let's just kind of break it down, shall we? So, gratitude means to be grateful. So, the attitude is how you carry yourself, your demeanor, right? So, like, it's not just oh she got an attitude. So we don't just mean like a negative. A negative sense of complacency, but we're talking about attitude as being like your actual demeanor. So what type of attitude do you have, right? So again, in the first example, attitude was a noun, but here when I'm saying an attitude of gratitude, is more so being used as an adjective. So when we're talking about attitude, it's describing your demeanor, okay? And so an attitude of gratitude means that your demeanor, your character, how you carry yourself is of a way that exudes gratefulness, because that's what gratitude is being grateful, being thankful. And so I want to first start off there breaking it down when we talk about having an attitude of gratitude or what it means. Then I want to kind of talk about how do we usher in an attitude of gratitude, right? Because I want to hit all of the people who are naysayers. I want to start there. All of the people who are going to throw up how impossible it is to have an attitude of gratitude, all the people who are going to only talk about all the bad things that's going on in the world with your life and all of those. So, whether you want to say that you are negative Nancy, whether you want to say that it's a pessimistic attitude, however you want to look at it, this is who I want to kind of start off with first. And so, again, hey, Cecilia, thank you so much for tuning in. So, again, if you are just now tuning in, what we're going to be talking about, and I don't know that we're going to go an hour, but what we're going to talk about is an attitude of gratitude. What is it? What it looks like, how you can not just achieve it, but how you can maintain it, right? And also we're going to talk about what it's not, because a lot of times people think that an attitude of gratitude is something that results from getting things, right? So I got a new job. I'm grateful for my new job. I'm grateful for my new home. I'm great. So that's what people think. So I'm gonna kind of touch on that as well, right? So first, like I said, I want to talk to the different people who may say, look at everything that we have going on in our world today. There is no way that you can be, what is it to be grateful about? So again, my negative Nancy's or pessimists. And again, not saying that anybody who's tuned in, not saying it's none of y'all, but we all probably know some people that's like this. And so if you know those people, those are also great people to tag to this podcast as well. So that way they can hear it from somebody other than you. Because have you ever noticed it seems like when you give people advice, they don't necessarily listen. But if somebody else says the exact same thing, the exact same thing that you said, then it tends to resonate. So just kind of indirectly help them by tagging them to this broadcast, right? If this is stuff that you've been saying forever and you really are more concerned that they get the message and not that it's that they're getting it from you, tag them to this to the podcast. So you have a lot of people that again they're looking at their particular situation, they're looking at look at the amount of homelessness that's going on, how can we be grateful? Look at the amount of unemployment that's going on, how can we be grateful? Look at the deaths, the crime, the violence, what is there to be thankful about? it I hear it all the time. And I'm going to tell you my same answer in a nutshell. You are not, your attitude of gratitude, your ability to have a demeanor of thankfulness is not selfish. Go with me. Meaning, it's not just, you should be able to have an attitude of gratitude, not just if and when something good happens to and for you or people that you know, right? An attitude of gratitude is a state of mind. An attitude of gratitude is a choice. It is a conscious choice that you make of how you want to have people perceive you. Do I want to come across as an optimist or pessimist? Do I want to come across as a person who, is kind, or do I want to come across as a person who's mean, right? And so when you're saying an attitude of gratitude is beyond just being thankful for things. It's about just the entire spirit that it embodies. So that, okay, yes, it's so true that there are some jacked up things going on in the world, right? So having an attitude of gratitude does not mean that you are ignoring the state of the world. It does not mean that nothing bad is happening in your life, right? It is not to say that you haven't seen your fair share of bad days, hard times, trials, or tribulations, but it's to say, despite that, right? Now, for my believers, I'm gonna throw in a quick verse. Job said, yea, though he slay me, yet will I trust him. So, in other words, despite the fact that my life might not be what I would like it to be, I still understand that there is a reason for me to be able to be good, to be positive, to exude gratitude, because it's not just about me. There is somebody who is getting something that they wanted, that they needed, that they prayed about, that they asked for, right? There is somebody that is, and beyond that, again, for my believers, if you understand that your entire purpose of being here is not just so that you can get different things, right? Hey, Ronald. Hey, Roman. Thank you all for tuning in. It's not just so that you can get things, but the reason for you being here is just because you're grateful that you got the opportunity to be here, right? So even if life isn't what you want it to be, the fact of the matter is that you still have life, might have pains, and understand I'm one that knows what I'm talking about. I've suffered a lot with a whole lot of T's at that LO, okay? A lot of loss in my life. and it was very quick. It was relatively quick. All of the different loss that I suffered, from my mother, both parents, all my parents, really. When I say that, my mother, my father that took care of me, my biological father, all of them are gone. Both grandmothers, aunts, uncles, cousins, a 18-month-old nephew. Like, I suffered a ton of loss in a 10-year time span. Like, literally every year, at least one or two somebody's major in my life was passing away. So I know a thing or two about death. I know a thing or two about grief. And despite that, you can still choose to have an attitude of gratitude, right? Like, I know what it means to have been unemployed. Yes, I have been a full-time entrepreneur for well over a decade now. But even in that, I know what seasons of not having clients, not having a consistent customer base. I know about that struggle. But despite that, you can still choose to have an attitude of gratitude. I am a stroke survivor. I've had more than one stroke, okay? This is so I know what it means to bounce back. I've had my children down. Two of my daughters had to have back surgeries because they suffered severe scoliosis, and their surgeries were a day apart. And we had to go through coming back from that. I've been through that. My husband is a cancer survivor. I've been through that. So my point is that this isn't just something that I Googled, some little report that I'm going to read to you, because y'all can tell I'm not reading anyway. For those who are listening, you may not know. I don't have a script. This is what I know to be the case. This is what I know to be true, because this is just how life has happened to and for me. So there has been a lot of bad things. See, it's really easy to say, have an attitude of gratitude where all that comes your way are good things. It's easy to be grateful when you got job promotion. It's easy to be grateful when you get a new car, a new house. Easy to be grateful when your family is enlarging itself and it's something that you were looking for. So you're having more children or grandchildren or whatever the case may be. It's easy to be grateful when you won a lottery or you just came into an inheritance, right? But watch this. You can still have an attitude of gratitude even when you are unemployed, even when you lose a loved one, even when your marriage or your relationship isn't going the way that you think it should go, the way you want it to go. You can still have an attitude of gratitude. Why? Because being grateful is a choice. Being grateful is not a reaction to what happens to you. Being grateful is a choice. Now, I normally don't do this when I go live, but I see that we have Cecilia Grace. So, for those of you who are watching me, you are not aware of the fact that I am simulcasting, and this is also across my Audible platform, which is Noon Vibe. And normally on Noon, I have my guests that are in queue wait before they come on, but I would love to hear what Miss Cecilia has to say. So, hello, Cecilia, how are you?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Yeah, I love what you're saying. I'm all about the gratitude. And, I was listening to what you were saying about, death. And yeah, we can suffer from the loss or be grateful for, the time that we had with our family and friends, And I think
Absolutely.
once we switch everything to gratitude, gosh, like life is so much, I don't know, better and easier.
Absolutely.
And I host here Kudos to You, and I always say it's about having that attitude of gratitude for all of the lessons and the blessings, because we can look at everything, again, as in like suffering and this is happening to me, or see it all as blessings, and you see it like how it makes sense. Everything makes sense at some point,
Absolutely.
and how one thing has to do with the next, and yeah, that having that attitude of gratitude has just really, switched my mindset. Really focus on the good stuff, because there's always good stuff happening, and we could, focus on the one thing that didn't go well today that we thought should go way better,
Mhm.
or wow, I'm grateful to be alive
That
and
part.
learn that lesson, or So yeah, I love what you're saying. I really just wanted to come up and say that. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Cecilia. I appreciate you because I've tuned into your podcast as well. And so thank you so much for listening and even for the words that you just shared. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'll continue listening.
Abs-
Bye.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, to those of you who are just now tuning in, today's topic is all about having an attitude of gratitude, right? And understanding what that actually means. So, I'm kind of is kind of debunking some of the things that we've heard or what we may have thought, and just giving you like just in black and white so you understand what actually is an attitude of gratitude. Because if you've never listened to me before, let me tell you the way that I speak, and this is just whether I'm on a stage, like relaying regular information, whether I'm in church speaking, whether I'm doing podcasts. I always speak to the full room, meaning I never assume that everybody just automatically knows a particular thing. I never just assume that everybody has the same mindset that I have. So before I go deep into something, I want to make sure that everybody is on the same page, that you understand when I'm coming to you where my mindset is. So I like to kind of set that stage. So, hey, Peter, welcome back to everybody that is here again. Thank you all so much for tuning in, whether you're watching on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, or if you're tuned in. If you're not already following me across all those platforms I named, please do so. You can follow me at Educated and Empowered, the number two. But today we're talking about an attitude of gratitude. So, in the first part of the show, I kind of broke down what it actually means to have an attitude of gratitude. What does that mean when we say that? So, attitude not being the noun, but being an adjective describing the type of attitude, right? Describing the type of demeanor. So, an attitude is your demeanor, the way that you carry yourself, and the way that you carry yourself is with gratefulness, with thankfulness. So that's what is meant, what is implied when we say having an attitude of gratitude, what it does not look like, right? We talked about that. It is not just about getting the good stuff, getting the new stuff, getting the best stuff. So it's not when you get increase, okay, now I'm going to be thankful. So having an attitude of gratitude is not a reaction. It is not a reaction to, oh, well, I'm thankful, right? Because a lot of times when we say thankful, what we mean is thank you. We confuse and we interchange those thank you and thankful, meaning, okay, well, if somebody gives me something, then it's customary to say thank you. But being thankful is not just about being courteous. So even if somebody doesn't give me something, I am still able to be thankful. Okay. Even if I didn't experience something positive, I can still have an attitude of gratitude. I can still be grateful. So, to Cecilia's point of what she was saying earlier, like the way that life is set up, very, 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 very rarely is everything going to go good all the time. I mean, like you literally could probably count on one hand and have fingers left over how many times all you experience is just all positive. How many times is it you got up on the right side of the bed and you left on time for work and there was no traffic outside and you get to work and the boss is he or she has given you a promotion and you didn't get into it with your coworkers, and then it was in line. You didn't have to wait in line when you went to lunch, and somebody treated you for lunch, and like that is not realistic. That's just not realistic. Like the reality is, you might wake up late. The alarm didn't go off, and then you left late. And then because you left late, you were sitting in traffic. And then by the time you got to work, if you work a corporate job, now your boss is hollering at you because you late, and then you don't get a lunch because you was late. So now you got to work through your lunch, and then by the time you get home, you're mad and grouchy because you done had a whole day. And that's typically how, or it's more likely that life would go that way, right? But watch this. An attitude of gratitude is, you know what, regardless of how my day went, I'm grateful that I had an opportunity to get a day. Even though my boss got on my nerve, I'm grateful because somebody doesn't have a job. So they don't have a boss to get on their nerve. You know what? Even though I got into it with my significant other, I'm grateful because somebody doesn't have a significant other to get into it with. So gratitude is all about being able to see what you do have and not focus on what you don't have. And even for people to say, because I know people who are single and they'll say, well, it's easy for you to, love your life because you have a spouse or you're married or whatever. Well, I wasn't born with a spouse. I wasn't born with a spouse, even though we've been together for 25 years. There was once upon a time when I didn't have a spouse, and he and our relationship is wonderful now. But baby, I say it all the time. In 25 years, let me tell you, it ain't always been, peaches and cream. It ain't like we don't know what arguing days and disagreement days look like, right? Like the only way we made it to see 25 is because we had to go through to get here. So my point is that even in life, there are going to be times when you struggle, and so it's not that you're grateful because you're struggling, even though there is a cliche that says what doesn't kill us will do what make us stronger, right? Like what we don't really give credence to is the fact that it takes those difficult times to shape our characters. It's in suffering loss that you realize the actual strength that you have, whether it's loss of a loved one, loss of a job, loss of a home, loss of, a relationship. Like when you suffer that loss, it really is going to show you whether or not you're resilient. It's going to show you if you're resourceful. So in other words, it's going to reveal things about yourself that you may not have realized were things that you had in you, right? Like if you're a person who is super dependent, when you lose somebody, it's going to show you you're going to be positioned to either sink or swim. It's that simple. When I lost my mother, I was relatively young. I was 22 years old, had just gotten married. So I wasn't even married for a year. I had gotten pregnant maybe like 2 months after I got married. She was like, she really wanted to see me have my grandbaby, right? And because she knew that she had gotten her cancer diagnosis, so we knew what it was. We knew that she didn't have long, and she was trying to get as much life crammed in as she could. And so, I ended up getting married, and like I said, I ended up getting pregnant. So she knew about me being pregnant, but she died 2.5 months before my first daughter was born. And so she never got an opportunity to see her on this side, right? But the point that I'm making is you could either say, well, you know what, that's just really horrible, because we feel like that bad things are not going to happen to us. And so it's fine when you hear about them happening to all these other people, and you have all of the advice in the world when it's happening to everybody else, right? But an attitude of gratitude and action, what that looks like is, even when it happens to me, the things that I say to somebody else, I can apply them to myself, right? So, was it hard to move forward without my mother? Absolutely. But what I learned was that there are a lot of things I didn't know I knew because I didn't need to know them, if that makes sense. Like if you have somebody showing you everything you need to know, many times we kind of get lazy slash spoiled, whatever words you want to use. And okay, if grandma's always cooking, why I need to learn how to cook? I don't need to learn how to cook because grandma's gonna cook. I'm just gonna come over grandma's house, right? Or if mama always do the laundry, why I need to learn how to do it? But what happens, and what losing so many people so back to back to back for me, what it did was it taught me that I had more resiliency within myself than I realized, right? Like, because somebody had to cook. I didn't know how to cook when I got married, but I had to learn. Why? Because there was nobody else to show me. There was nobody to teach me. Like in my head, I think when I got married, in my head, I was saying, oh, well, I'll just go to my grandmother because God bless my mom, but my mama wasn't really the cook. She had her own like couple meals that she cooked, but I was, but the irony though, I will say this: my mother's the one who taught me the first meal I made for my husband. I learned that from my mother. But in my head, I'm like, hey, I got time, right? We always think that we have time because we're just arrogant that way. We don't ever think that death is going to come down our street or our block or whatever. And so in my head, I'm thinking that I was thinking that, hey, I'll have my, when I found out I was pregnant, well, no, I don't know nothing about raising children. I didn't, the little cousins that I had, I wasn't responsible. I wasn't around. I didn't know nothing about pregnancy. And because again, you have to understand this was a time where children were not allowed to be in the midst of adults. So I wasn't having no interviews with adults and finding out anything about childbirth when I was in my teens or whatever, right? So by the time I was pregnant, I didn't know anything about pregnancy. And I think in my mind, I thought that my mother would be here to help me through, my grandmother would be here to help me through. I, who knew that my mother would die and then just barely a year later, my grandmother would as well, right? But the point is, I could have either gotten depressed and just said, forget life, I don't care, never mind. And somebody would have said, well, you're justified for feeling that way. I understand why you feel that way. Or I could have did what I did and said, well, you know what? I don't have mama, I don't have grandmama, but this baby still need me. This man is still expecting for me to know what it means to be a wife. So I got to figure it out, right? And so this is what I'm trying to say. Life isn't going to always be quote unquote fair or what we deem as fair because that's such a slant. The fair is such a relative term because everybody has their own idea of what fair is. Because if we want to just be real honest, when we say fair, what we really mean, what we really mean is that we're not looking for anything bad to happen to us. Like, like, okay, I had my bad day, right? I had my bad day. So that's enough. Now follow my bad day up with like a year worth of good stuff, right? So now when you're thinking about that ain't really fair either, right? How you get to have one bad day, but then 364 good days. Like we would never choose hard. We would never, and matter of fact, I'm on TikTok as well. There was a video that I did about choosing hard, as a reel about choose the heart. We would never choose hard. If we're being honest, most people are not going to choose hard. And I'm not talking about on a video game choosing the hardest level to try to, get back. I'm talking about in life. If you got a door that behind door number one, you just get $1,000 handed to you, but then behind door number two, you got to struggle for 5 months or 6 years before you figure out how to make the $1,000 on your own. Most people ain't gonna choose the hard, right? Because watch this, because people would say, well, Toneal, why would you choose the hard? Because behind door number one, you had $1,000. Once somebody gave you $1,000 one time, you don't know how to duplicate that. But behind door number two, even though it might have took you some time, whatever the time was, even though it might have taken you some time before you figured out how to get your own $1,000, the bottom line is you figured it out. So that means that if I got 1,000 one time, then I can just duplicate that same process and I can keep on getting thousand after thousand after thousand. But in the easy way, when somebody just gave it to me, now I didn't learn anything behind it. I didn't learn anything but to just expect for somebody to get to me again. And the fact is that it's not gonna just be people that's constantly here in life giving you, gifting you, telling you. You have to figure it out. And sometimes we don't position ourselves, we don't put ourselves in a position to figure it out naturally. It's not until the hard thing happens to us, it's not until we don't have an alternative choice till we're like, well, I guess I ain't got no choice but to figure it out, right? Many times we don't take that proactive stance, but it's like on because I don't have nothing else to do, I guess I'll go ahead and I'll figure it out. That's the truth in most cases. But an attitude of gratitude, guys, What it looks like is to say, regardless of as to whether or not the sun is shining on me today, I'm grateful because either A, I'm here to see the day. So even if it's rain, even if it's clouds, whatever, I'm here to see it. And or I remember when the sun was shining on me, right? And watch this. Some people don't even like the heat. So you don't want it to be sun anyway. Or it can be sun, but I just don't want to be sun too long. Or it can be sun, but I don't want the heat. I want the warmth, but not the heat. You see what I'm saying? So anyway, if you all are just tuning in, because I'm boiling down to the last segment. But if you're just now tuning in, today's topic has been about an attitude of gratitude. What actually is, when we say an attitude of gratitude, what do we mean by that? Number one, and then and we kind of broke that down earlier on, right? Like attitude, your demeanor, and then the gratitude, being grateful. So understanding what is actually meant by having an attitude of gratitude and what it does not look like, right? So it's not just about being reactive. An attitude of gratitude is not just me saying thank you once I got something. So thank you and thankful are not necessarily synonymous. So you can always be thankful regardless of what your situation looks like. Typically you only say thank you when you are on the receiving end of some type of gift, right? So gratitude is a choice. And I want us to keep this in mind. And this is really going to be the last thing that I end with. Gratitude is a choice. You can wake up and choose before you even put your feet to the ground. You can choose to say today, and I have a girlfriend on Facebook, she used to do it all the time. Today is going to be the best day of my life. Today will be the best day of my life. So you, whatever your personal affirmation is, you can choose to believe it, hold on to it. Today will be the best day of my life. Today will be better than ever. Today I'm going to succeed. Today is going to be better than yesterday. Whatever it is. And the point is not to say, well, I said that and it didn't happen. Well, say it again tomorrow. And tomorrow after that, until tomorrow becomes today, right? As long as you have life, you have opportunity. And so you will find, when I said that gratitude is a choice, it's a it's a mind thing. It matters how you think about stuff. It matters your perception and your perspective. They both matter. If you wake up talking about you look outside and because it's raining outside, oh, this is gonna be a bad day. You done already put it out in the atmosphere. You done already allowed what the weather was to dictate whether or not you're gonna have a good day. If you roll over and your significant other, if you have one, and y'all done went to bed on bad terms or whatever, and now you wake up with attitude, and now attitude as the noun and not the adjective, you wake up in a bad mood. That was a choice. You could say, you know what, I'm gonna let yesterday be yesterday and today is today. If you wake up and you get up and traffic is outside, I don't care how long it takes me. Once I get to where I'm going, it's gonna be good. And you can even make it pleasant. It's within your travel situation. So whether you're driving, you put on some music that you like. If you're walking on public transportation, take your headphones with you. Like you have to figure out ways to provide your own atmosphere of gratitude, right? Your own atmosphere of joy, because at the end of the day, if you're dependent on somebody else to be the reason why you're in a good position, you won't be there long, right? Because there are going to be some people who will help you here and there, but most people are like, I got my own life to live. I got my own load to carry. So, like, if you need a favor on Thursday, I got you Thursday, not every day, not even every Thursday, right? So, this is why it really pays to have mentors. It pays to have, coaches, people who can help you figure it out on your own. And when I say it pays to have them, many times you have to pay to have them. Definitely with coaches, mentors, not always, right? But you want to make sure that you're never so arrogant as to feel like you can figure out life all by yourself, because most time you can't. I don't. It has nothing to do with your level of intelligence. Has nothing to do with how much money you have. Life is hard. And it's a whole lot of it to live. It's a lot of different ways it can go. It's a whole lot of forks that come up in the road. And so it's always great whether it's a parent, a grandparent, a family member, a sibling, whether it's a boss, a professor. Like, it's always great to have somebody, a friend even, that has some experience that you don't have. See, a lot of times this thing called life, they try to get you to believe that you're the one that got to know all of everything. You should always be the smartest person, because then that way everybody coming to you. Okay, but here's the problem. What happened when you need somebody to go to? Because you can't believe that you're going to always know every answer. And if the way that it's designed is that everybody is always coming to you, we are not God. We don't have every answer. Baby, if I'm in high school and everybody that's under me, or that's coming to me is all in grades under me, that's one thing. But what happens if ever I get in the room with college students, with graduate students? Then what? Right? And that's a lot of times what happens as well. And so, even in that, you want to be grateful that yes, you are intelligent enough, resourceful enough that you're able to be somebody's go to. But you want to also make sure that you get somebody that you can go to, that you have somebody that's able to pour into you. Right? Because if you don't, if you're steadily just pouring, 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 giving, 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 doing, 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 then now you're pouring from an empty cup, and that's not gonna last long. But anyway, y'all, so that's really, like I say, understand that being grateful, that is a choice. That is something, it is a conscious choice that every day, today is gonna be the best day of my life. Every day is going to be, hey, I'm going to take one more step forward, right? And you can choose. That's the great thing about it. You get to choose what that step is. Is it going to be in personal growth? Is it going to be with professional development? So, like, as a parent, as a significant other, as a child, as a, like, in what capacity, as a sibling, are you going to be better there? Are you going to be better within your job if you work a corporate job, or trying to figure out your business? Like, you can figure out what productivity looks like for you. You can figure out what being better looks like. Like, what all do I need to improve? And again, God willing, you'll have time to work through it. It doesn't just have to be, I got to do all of everything today. No, like, okay, in this season, in this season, I'm going to focus on my relationship and making sure I'm better there. In this season, I'm going to focus on being a better parent. In this season, I'm going to see if I can be a more productive entrepreneur. Like, you figure out what your priorities are, right? But again, so much of it starts with your mentality. And that's when we come back to say having an attitude of gratitude. You will notice, and even the Bible, and I'll end it like this. One of my favorite scriptures is Philippians 4 and 8. The Bible tells us to think on, and I'm not reading it, but I know this, I'm just kind of, paraphrasing, whatever the good things are. So think on the things that are, lovely and just and true and, honest and of a good report. Those are things to think on. So if you are already down, if you are already depressed, somehow you done had a bad situation, bad setback. So health wise, things ain't right, or within your family structure, things ain't good, lost a job, whatever it is, it's not going to benefit you to think on every bad situation. You, what they say, you never kick a dog while they down. So if you already depressed, it ain't gonna help you to keep on thinking about even worse things. You digging yourself in a deeper hole, right? But whatever the good things are, that's where you want your energy to go. Because when you start thinking on those things and you think on it long enough, you begin to manifest it. You start speaking again. The Bible says that the power of not just life, but it's also death. So you can, when you keep on talking about so much how bad everything is, keep on talking about it long enough. Bad, negative, misfortune, that's what you manifesting for yourself. But if you continue to speak the positive things, I know this is going to be great. I know I'm going to pay. And you keep saying it until you see it, right? So those are the things that you have to believe. You can't just believe the negative things. You got to believe all of it. You got to believe the whole picture. And so if you are a person who typically sees the fact that the glass is half empty, if it's always a bad day, then I'm going to challenge you to switch your thinking. And those of you, if you've ever followed me, typically when November gets here, and I think I'll do it again this year. I didn't do it last year. I had some different things going on last year. Matter of fact, and I might not have done it for the last 2 years, but normally in November, I do an attitude of gratitude challenge, right? Meaning that for 30 days, because you know it's 30 days in November, normally I do it where 30 days there is no negativity. So you have to challenge yourself to be positive for 30 days. You have to challenge yourself. It just when you was about to complain, instead of talking about, ooh, this was nasty. I thank God that I got something to eat. Just when you was gonna say, oh, my baby getting on my, ooh, I thank God that my child is here. Or, I'm grateful that I actually got the job. Even though my boss might get my nerve, I ain't gonna focus on the boss getting my nerve. I'm grateful that I have a job. And every day, because again, gratitude is a choice. So I'm gonna think about it, y'all. I got a week to think about it. I may go ahead and go through with this attitude of gratitude challenge and I'll issue it to y'all. And no, I don't give any prizes because if you're able to do this, that is the prize. Being able to see yourself in a different light, being able to see that you can do this. I don't just have to complain. I don't just have to be in a negative space. And I promise you, though, what I can testify to, it changes how you physically feel. Like it lifts so many weights. And this is really good for people who are normally stressed out about stuff. You easily get stressed. I have a severe stress disorder. And so these are some of the things that I had to consciously do to start pivoting. I got diagnosed back in 2009 with severe stress disorder. We don't have to go into what all that is, but just understand that between the stress disorder and the strokes, there were conscious choices. Like, first of all, I had to sit down, look at my life, and understand what was going on because I genuinely did not understand why I kept finding myself in these situations, right? But then as I started to understand, because you have to be willing to be honest with yourself, even if you don't want to listen to what nobody else is saying about you. You have to be honest with yourself. You got to be willing to see the mistakes that you're making, to see the things you keep on repeating. And then not just that, but say, you know what? I want to do something different. Because, yeah, they say even in AA, like the first step is to admit that there is a problem. But now that you know that there's a problem, what you gonna do about it, right? So for me, a lot of things just became being intentional about the choices that I made. Like I've never really been a negative person. I've always kind of been that, it's gonna be okay. Like some people say it's a gift. Like I'm naturally an encourager. I'm naturally a nurturer. Everything gonna be okay. I'm a motivator. That's just naturally what I am. And again, I say, but every motivator needs a motivator. Every encourager needs an encourager because I am not superhuman. There's still days when I wake up and I may not feel like it. So it's good to have somebody that's like, Toneal, you got this. The same way I do for my clients. It's good to have somebody that's there for me too, right? So anyway, the point is, when I first started doing this, I want to say I first started doing it. When was it? Maybe 2012, 2013 is when I started this attitude. And it was not a public thing because I was not really huge on social media in those early days. I didn't really start getting bigger with social media until maybe about 6, 7 years ago, something like that. And when I say big, I mean I didn't really get into social media like that until about 7 years ago, 7, 8 years ago. But the point is, in those days, it was something that it was a personal challenge to myself because sometimes it comes a point where you have to get tired of being tired. Like a lot of times we like to vent, we like to talk to other people, we like to, say all of this and that. But when you're actually tired of being tired, then that means that you're willing to do something to get different results. And so, like I said, I'm gonna pray about it, y'all, because I'm actually about to wrap this up. Got to get ready to go to Bible class, but I'm gonna pray about it. And I very well may do it because, like I said, I end up not doing the last 2 years. But I don't wait. The great thing now is that I don't wait until November 1st to just walk in gratitude. Like I try to live my life that way. But what I will say is if that is not naturally your character, this is definitely a good way to start to challenge yourself to not complaining, challenge yourself to embracing, and not just embracing, but like enjoying what it is that you have. And when you do that, I promise you, it alters the way that you see things. It definitely alters perspective. It gives you to have a greater sense of gratitude. And in doing that, it really does make you physically feel better. But that's it. That's it right now. Thank you guys so much. Everybody that tuned in again, whether it was Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or YouTube. Thank you guys for connecting. If you listened in on Noom, thank you to Cecilia who came to the microphone. Thank you so much to all of you who are here on Noom Vibe tuned in. Thank you to all of y'all. I shouted out many of you guys at early on the show, but thank you so much. And I will be back tomorrow. Tomorrow is our professional development day. So Tuesdays we do personal growth. Wednesdays that's word of wisdom. Thursdays we do professional development. So if you guys are here with Noom, I typically have to put out categories. Life coach is always a category, and then I always well, I won't say always, but there are times where I will sub out that second category. So just make sure that you are following me so that way you can be notified when I go live, because I typically am live at 5. You remember we did the taking accountability show? I'm still working on my timeliness, y'all. I'm trying to get there. The goal is to always be live at 5, but today I was a lot earlier. I was still late, but I was earlier. I think we started about 5:10 today. But in either case, guys, I thank you. I appreciate you. And again, if you want to connect with me outside of whatever social media platform, please hit me in my inbox, or do know that I will be coming to your inbox to ask you for your email address so that you can be added to our email list. Because on November 1st, I am going to be launching the membership to Educated and Empowered. And I'll talk more about that next week. But for today, thank you all so much for tuning in. And I hope that you have been able to get educated and get empowered with Toneal. Thank you.